The next great leader that this country needs could be molding young athletes at Baylor University right now. We'll tell you who on Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, and welcome on into another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Gametime. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show, powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. Appreciate you everydayers out there, as well as you who are new to the podcast. Great to have you aboard. We're the only place that is bringing you nothing but Baylor content that is not coming straight from the university and is here for free. And we are pretty darn proud of that. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and also covers the Baylor Bears for the Baylor Lariat, Braden Murray. He'll be joining us to talk through who the next great leader of this country is that's at Baylor right now, who would be on your Baylor presidential ticket, and a little bit of a different perspective of this hot streak that Baylor is on the recruiting trail. Man, it is still going. The names they're still being thrown out there. There could be some more commitments still to come. And then taking just a preliminary look at the football schedule. I don't want to get too deep into it yet, but what are some of the games that are really getting us intrigued and getting us ready to start this 2024 football season? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. So without me talking quite as much, let's toss it over to my interview with the great Braden Murray. As promised, Braden Murray, Baylor Lariat, joining me, also co-host of the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. I'll bet that still feels good to hear, Braden.
It does feel nice, not just the Baylor Lariat byline anymore. Diversifying.
It's that Cam Show effect.
Yes, sir.
It's really going to take off. Braden, couple of things to get into today. Inspired by the events of the weekend. We don't get political on this show, which we're not going to do today. But we are about to head into a big presidential election. They're all big. Okay. They're all the most important ones of our lifetime. Everything is so unprecedented, as if every day isn't unprecedented. But now a bit of a shakeup in that. So it leaves a spot open, Braden. So what we're going to do for Locked On Baylor is I want to pose this question to you of if you could pick anyone involved with Baylor athletics, be it a coach, a player, an administrator, and that doesn't include the university president, as much as she does get involved with athletics and obviously with the NCAA at that level as well. Who would you pick from Baylor athletics to be on the ticket this November, and why?
I'm going to go with softball head coach Glenn Moore.
Okay, Glenn Moore, you are a nomination for the president.
You are the president of the United States.
Why are you picking Glenn Moore?
He's been at Baylor the longest, or one of the longest coaches here. He's been like a bastion of stability.
Yeah,
that softball team has been solid for 2 decades now, and have a bright future ahead of them. And I think that Glenn Moore would be my pick.
Okay, I like that. Do you have any honorable mentions that you had thought of? Because I know how you think through these things, and so I'm saying, if we have to replace a president and vice presidential nominee, who would go with Glenn Moore? Now, this is something different to think about. You can't have two alphas necessarily. It's not like you're going to then pick, another big time head coach. Do you have a running mate for Glenn Moore? I did kind of throw you on the spot for this one, by the way.
Maybe one that I really like. He has a good Twitter good Twitter presence too. Is Dallas Baker.
Okay,
wide receiver.
I like that. All right, so this is the Glenn Moore Dallas Baker ticket.
Yes, sir.
Just because?
Just because I think he's a high energy person, and he's been on a bit of a hot streak on the recruiting recently. So I think he could translate that to the campaign trail.
Okay. Braden, would you ask for mine?
Cameron, who would you go with your presidential pick?
Wow, big question. Big question there. That's a journalist right there. This was in some ways a tough pick, but in some ways the easiest pick of all time. I am picking Scott Drew. Okay. I am picking Scott Drew for a couple of reasons. First off, I am of the belief that like the president of the United States doesn't really, I don't care if he never leaves America. I don't, as someone who's, in the middle and small government person, I don't need them to be meddling anywhere else.
Right.
So Scott Drew, he's like, I might look at other places and help you out, but I'm not even going to go visit Kentucky. My family's going to go visit Kentucky, but not me. I am salt of the earth, loyal to this place. I am loyal to Mi Casita.
Eyes on the prize. Exactly.
Yes, I am here to be the Baylor basketball coach. I am going to be here. I'll send my delegates out somewhere else. So that's what I like. And he's also, I don't know, engineered the greatest turnaround in college basketball history. But who cares about that?
You know what? That's a
more
good
of a stately presence.
That's a good pick. I might pick him for my Secretary of State then.
That's smart. That's smart. And I like a guy who rolls with the times too. He was a suit guy for years. He went to the more muted quarter zip. He was a guy who was zone defense for years and then went man to man, and it worked. He's, like all coaches, developing into a fundraiser recruiter as well. So he's rolled with the punches. So his vice president, though, is the guy who I did also give some consideration for the presidential nominee, and that is the man of the hour, the man of the summer, Keenan Hall.
Yes,
he is on the ticket with Scott Drew, and I was worried that you were gonna take him.
He was on my short list for sure.
Dallas Baker, good, not bad, absolutely. These are 1 and 2 recruiters in the whole Big 12. Keenan Hall, to me, not just the vice president, but also who is that guy behind the scenes in House of Cards who just made stuff happen? Whether it was like intimidating witnesses or paying people off, he made it happen.
He was, I don't know. Chief of staff. He's chief of staff.
Sure. So maybe not like for like, but I like Keenan Hall in that he's been behind the scenes. You don't see him in front of the podium a lot. A lot of people might not even know what he looks like, but he gets it done in a time that is coming off one of the worst seasons of Baylor history, at least recent Baylor history. At 3-9, he has engineered the best recruiting class they've had in years. He's been the lead recruiter. He has had an eye for talent, and he has got these kids in through the door, or at least gotten them to commit and make the graphic. Okay. Right. This country, I don't know if you've seen it on social media from whatever side you're reading it from, not in a good place right now. Unprecedented times.
It's pretty bleak right now, Cam.
We need 2 guys who can pull us from the ashes. Scott Drew and Keenan Hall have proven they can do that. So that's my Drew Hall ticket.
It's a solid ticket right there. That's a real optimistic looking ahead to the future for the coming years. I would vote for them. If not for my own ticket, if it was between our two ticket, I'd probably go Homer here. I'd go my own ticket, but if something were to happen to my candidates, I would have no trouble voting for y'all.
I think at some point, because summer gets so dry, we could do a whole cabinet here. I think that's HUD, Felicia Mulkey, Mitch Thompson, Department of Ag, something like that. We could make that happen. Anyway, that is your Baylor ticket for November. So you're either in on Baylor or you're not. Hall Baker or Drew. Wait, no, sorry. More Baker, Drew Hall.
There you go.
You know what? Vote down on that in the comments below, please. If you're watching on YouTube, get down in the comments. If you're listening on podcast, tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. Who is getting your vote on the Baylor ticket this November? Today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by Gametime. And wouldn't you know, I actually used Gametime last night again in real life. I love going to the ballpark in the summer. I know you do too, because you love sports just as much as me. And the best way, the easiest way, the only way to go and get those tickets is through our friends at Gametime and the Gametime app. There's nothing like getting to the ballpark, hot dog, beverage of your choice, and enjoying the game out there in person as we get ready. We get that heat on us and get ready for the games at McLean this fall. Gametime is the only way to do it. Why? Because they have all-in pricing. So what you see, that is your price. That's what you're going to pay. No hidden fees. You get to see the view from your seats. They also have the best last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off by buying last minute for sports, but also concerts, comedy shows, theater, if you're that classy, anything that comes with a ticket, okay? They've got flash deals and zone deals going on throughout the week. You get the views from your seats, like I said, and you also have the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying those MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Braden talked about my vice presidential candidate, Keenan Hall. He is the man of the summer, and it's because Baylor football has been just on fire, kind of out of nowhere on the recruiting trail. And the fans have heard me talk a lot about it. We've heard Will Turboff talk about it. We heard Carter Yates talk about it a few weeks ago. But Braden, you're someone who not only covers this team, but you're still a student. You're like on campus every day. You've got your friends in the group chat. It's been a buzz this summer. So first, before we get into the specifics, did you see this summer coming whatsoever? You're more optimistic than I am.
No, I don't think I definitely didn't see this coming. Just because of our, the 3-9 record. Scott Drew, Dave Aranda being on the hot seat. I don't know if I were a 4-star recruit, if I'd be looking at Baylor, I was like, there's some instability there. I might not want to pledge my next 4 years, but obviously I'm not a recruit, so it's not up to me. But
not yet.
No,
not yet. You're not a recruit. So tell me, what do you think the selling point has been? Because you mentioned it off of 3-9. That's something that gets lost a little bit because they've been so hot in recruiting, but something that I think can't be mentioned enough. They're coming off a bad season, and there's nothing that's guaranteeing it's going to be a good season this year. So how, Braden, how on earth are they getting these kids to commit here?
That's a good question. I think this is a solid position staff.
Mm-hmm. We hope. Yeah.
We hope.
Mm-hmm.
And
it certainly looks that way.
I think, we're paying players now. I think that might be a big part of it, Cam.
I guess, but I see these kids picking Baylor. Taz Williams picks Baylor over Michigan.
Right.
Michigan's got money too.
Some of it might be just because we're in state. In college football 25, being closer to the recruit, that definitely is a benefit, a boon to the organization. In my early days as a recruiter, it's definitely helped me get some 4-star, 5-star players.
Which I did want to ask about that in the middle of this recruiting talk. Have you been able to play as Baylor yet? I know everyone's like, hey, let's build up a small team. Is there any intrigue? Because I don't have the game. Is there any intrigue in playing as Baylor in college football 25?
There wasn't really for me. Because they're kind of a known entity for the most part. But I did play right before coming on here, and it's
just practice.
I played TCU at night at McLean, and it's sick, dude. It is sick.
Is it? So, they don't have the line in there yet.
They don't have the line in there yet, but
what a move. What a move to say, yeah, we messed this one up. We got to have the line in there.
Right. And the anthracite coming soon.
Yes.
It's
yes.
cool.
How do they miss that? They do clearly they do so much research into this.
Right.
And they've got, all the rivalry games down. They've got everything inside the stadium. So, you got to watch the video. You got to look at pictures. How do you not happen upon? They even had the big ring of fire that Baylor runs under. How do you not have the line in there as well? How is not every picture do you see, there's a couple thousand kids in there with gold jerseys welcoming them out. How do you not have that?
I'm not sure if it's an oversight. Maybe more of a, how do we render this in a realistic way?
But if that was the case, wouldn't they then have it as the game was released? Like, how do we do it? But also, if we're going to do it, we have to do it before it gets released. Instead, it's been like a week and a half, and then they're like, we'll bring it.
At some point.
We'll bring it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm not EA Sports, but
I don't know, but I'm grilling you on it.
Yeah.
I am grilling you on it. Back to the recruiting, Braden. 3 4-stars in 2 weeks, at least composite 4 stars. Baylor did not have that for years. How much do you buy into? Because I kind of say this, and I don't know how much it happens because I'm not deep into the recruiting game, and I know you're not out there for 247 either. But how much do you buy into guys who have committed recruiting their friends or guys they've played with in the past or played against in the past in high school to come and join forces? Do you think that's like a big part of it, or is it more just like, they're offering me some money?
I think it's definitely a part of it. You know, if you're growing up together, you want to play together at the highest level you possibly can, just to make your childhood dreams come true in a sense. And we saw it with the Jenkins siblings. You know,
It's
Caden
true. It
and
took a year. Yeah.
we had the Barringtons. So I think there's
Mhm.
definitely, if two players have a relationship prior to their recruitment and they both get offers, I think that's definitely plays a factor into it.
I'm not complaining. It's just that's a big decision. When
Mhm.
you're transferring, that's one thing. You know, the Barringtons transfer together. Caden Jenkins played here for a year, and then Cameron Jenkins
Right.
transferred in. And by all means, Baylor is a better program than UNLV. Maybe not like, 3-9 notwithstanding, but overall they're a better program, better conference. Interesting. Okay, so riddle me this, Braden, and this is something Drake and I talked about a little bit in Monday's crossover. How much in your mind does this year play a part? Like, these kids are not going to be here this year. There's a long time between now and National Signing Day.
Mhm.
How much does the 2024 football team actually play into this?
Well, I think success is paramount for this class. Not just for this class, just for the future of the program, I would say. If we see this team go, I don't know, 3-9, 4-8, I think you could definitely see. I'm not going to say all of the 4 stars, but a good, one or two of them maybe say, I
It's
don't
got to
know.
be a rethink at that point, right?
Right, right, and I think if we're not having a great season by Halloween, even I would not be shocked to see some guys maybe decommit. Uh,
Hmm.
but
And okay.
you can go. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and to that end, to me, I think the Big 12 and Bay were very much part of this. Big question mark. A
Mhm.
lot of question marks around this conference, not just the new teams, but a lot of the established teams have new guys at different positions. Like, I'm looking at Kansas State being one of the favorites this year and are rolling out a new Avery Johnson at quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a big position. Or, name whatever, Texas Tech rolling in some new receivers. That was a big problem for them last year, was the weapons. So looking at that, and you're saying, hey, well, if they go 4-8 again, this is not going to be good news for that 2025 recruiting class. We need to rethink this whole thing. Do you think? Do you see that as a real possibility that they could have another 3-9, 4-8 season?
I think my prediction for this team, having not seen them play since spring ball, actually, I haven't go to the spring game. I'm thinking,
Most of us didn't. Yeah.
yeah, most of us. I sent one of my own reporters to that, but I'm thinking we're going to get five or six wins. Is what I'm thinking.
That's a big difference. How big a difference do you see that as? 5 wins versus 6 wins?
I'm leaning towards 5 right now.
Okay.
That's the upper from what I'm thinking is what may be not our ceiling, but
Does
the higher
does
end of things.
does 5 wins rather than 6 wins, which of course we know 6 wins puts you in a bowl game.
Mhm.
5 wins instead, does that mean you're looking for a coach Christmas time?
5 wins.
That would make 4 losing seasons in 5 years.
Right. I think 5 wins because that's still an improvement on 3-9.
It is, yeah.
I think 5 wins might win Dave an extra year of leniency because we'll have this number right now, the 29 class coming in.
You've won another year.
Right.
Come on down.
I think if they go 5-7, large swaths of the fan base would be up in arms, I think.
Sure. And they probably should be. And like you kind of mentioned the Baylor conundrum in the midst of that. Going from 3 to 5 wins is a natural progression for a program that's trying to pick itself up off the mat. And what I mean by that is usually like the beginning of a head coach's tenure after a couple of straight losing seasons, because that's how we usually see it, not the 5th year of a coach's tenure with some success mixed in there. And it's easy for us to say in July, like 5-7, good improvement. But that's not the way I think we would feel or the fans would feel at, in November with a chance to go to a bowl game. And instead you do end up with another losing record. Is that something you take into account of like July 5-7, not great, but not the worst thing in the world. November 5-7 feels pretty damn bad.
Definitely worse. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we're 5-7 November, I think I can see what. Yeah, that'd be definitely worse.
Not good
for Dave Aranda. Yeah,
not good. And that's certainly when the decision will be made. But to something that we've also been talking about throughout the summer is like one of the things that Dave Aranda kind of staked his job to was bringing in recruits. That's why when I read that story from Sam Khan Jr. in the early part of the spring, I was like, that sounds like they are going to do another year or two. So anyway, that's something to think about. But we will also be talking about the schedule more in depth because Braden, you have come to me with like, Cam, these are the games that I want to see the most. So we're going to go over that. Braden Murray still here with us, Baylor Lariat, covering the Bears inside and out. And Braden, we talk about there's so many question marks to this, not only this team, but to the schedule, to this conference. So as you look through the Baylor 2024 schedule, I wanted you to rank your top 3 games that you're most excited about. Doesn't need to be the biggest names on the schedule. It could be an occasion. It could be a player. It could just be something that's unique to you. So Braden Murray, from 3 to 1, can you give me your biggest 3 games of the Baylor football season? The trifecta, the tickling trifecta, the 3 games that tickle you as a fan.
Right. My number 3, West Virginia, at West Virginia.
Ooh, place that Baylor has never won.
Exactly. That's why it's on my list. We always struggled there. Last time we played there, we got trounced, if I remember correctly.
I think you were at my house.
I was at your house for that game, and I was very sad.
Brutal. That was so brutal, man. West Virginia was a little better than I think we thought, but I think they were still 4-8, 5-7. They were not good. And that was kind of the game we found out, maybe Baylor's not that good.
Yeah.
And it's been downhill since then. That would be what do you have the schedule in front of you? Do you know what part of the season that's in? I think that's late in the season.
It is week 12.
November. Morgantown. Never won there. Doesn't matter how good Baylor's been, how bad West Virginia's been. Like literally one of the top maybe 3 teams in Baylor history lost there in 2014. Oh, that is intriguing because I'm wondering if they're ever going to win there.
Even in 2019, well, this was a home game for us, but even in 2019, you had we almost lost West Virginia at home.
Yeah, Halloween. West Virginia was still bad. I think that was probably year 1, maybe actually right before Neil Brown. It might have still been Dana. I think it was. And they were not good. And Baylor, I think, needed to block a field goal to win by 3, 17-14. Am I right in that?
I think so.
And Taekwon had some incredible touchdown catch. That was a cold night. I remember that. But it's never really been easy against West Virginia.
Right.
Some easy ones at home sprinkled in there, but for the most part, not too easy, obviously, especially on the road. All right, Braden. Number 3, we got the Nears. Number 2.
BYU Cougars. Homecoming for Gary Bohannon.
Yeah.
And I always like playing BYU.
How could you not?
Exactly. It's just it's been a fun couple matchups we've had so far. For Baylor fans.
And all of them pretty fairly evenly matched.
Right.
In 21, obviously, Baylor became the better team, kind of ascended
Right.
after that game and finished in the top 5 in the season. But I think they were both ranked in that game, both ranked in 2022, and both coming off of tough seasons this year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
that was the moon game, if I remember correctly. RG3 kept mentioning how bright the moon is.
Yeah. That was a wild game in Provo with all the missed field goals.
Yeah.
What was I going to? Oh, that's supposed to be the gold out game, which I think we talked about off camera when it was announced.
Oh, I didn't remember that, but
let's talk about the gold out thing.
Okay.
Gold outs look great. Baylor has not been able to pull it off, but when it's there, it looks great. And they've failed a couple of times the last few years. Don't love the idea of trying to do that on the game that's going to have the most opposing fans in your building.
Yeah.
That's not even, I mean, there are plenty of knocks you can make against Baylor fans and their attendance, but this isn't one of them. BYU's got a great fan base and they're everywhere. And we saw that in 2021. They took up a good chunk of McLean Stadium. All right. The new holy war, Baylor and BYU at number 2. So Braden Murray, we have reached the moment of truth. What is the number 1 game that you have circled on Baylor's football schedule this year?
So my number 1, it's kind of a weird one. It is week 3. It's a home game against Air Force.
Okay. What out of left field? Braden, please explain. Wow.
Just because, well, it's going to be a night game.
Okay.
It's family weekend.
You're big into family.
And this is the Air Force. Air Force, they beat us. Was that the Frisco Bowl? I don't remember what
Armed Forces Bowl.
Armed Forces Bowl. It was in that area.
So they had to win. Yeah.
Right. I think.
So you're doing this as a revenge game.
I am.
Baylor's got plenty of revenge games after a couple losing seasons. You're like, Air Force, we got to stick it to those chumps at the Air Force Academy.
Here's my thinking for this exercise, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like TCU is too obvious of a pick for, they're our rivals.
Is it?
With them.
Okay. That's what I was expecting. You left them, you left Oklahoma State off.
I did. I think those were 2. I was mix it up for you. I'm not going Colorado
off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going.
I like the thinking outside the box, though. I'm here for that.
I think it'll be a good indicator of how good this Baylor team is.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Because week
coming
1,
off. Go ahead.
Week 1 we have Tarleton, who on paper we should beat them pretty soundly.
Should be a win. Yep.
Week 2 we play at Utah. Last year it should have been a victory, I think, for the Bears, just because I think we were the better team that day. Obviously, it didn't go our way. And then week 3 we have Air Force. I think we're probably going to lose to Utah this year, which I think Utah might win the conference.
Fair.
And
That's my pick.
Air Force, I think, is a nice in the middle team to just see how we stack up.
Yeah. And then Colorado the next week. Am I right in that? Yeah.
Yes.
So then you enter into full on conference play. That's a good point. And Air Force is a team that beat up on you a few years ago. They don't return a lot. I think they've got the least returners of anyone in the country. So hopefully that is an advantage to Baylor. But you're right. I mean, if they struggle with Air Force, or God forbid they lose to Air Force, that could be the makings of a long season.
Right.
If they beat Air Force and you're 2-1 at that point, you're feeling good. You've seen the team win a few times. You're going up against a team that's 4-8 in the next week, 4-8 last year in the next week.
Right.
So I like that. I do like that. You're like, it's time to get some revenge on those guys. We got to get one over on Air Force, baby.
Yes,
Colorado Springs, downvote. Let's take them out. Oh, Braden Murray, thanks so much for joining. Always love having you on the show.
Thank you, Cam. It's great to be here.
And thank you guys for joining as well. Thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. So appreciate that. Get involved down in the comment section below. Who do you have on your presidential ticket, Baylor version? And what is the number 1 tickle game for you? What's the game that tickles you on the 2024 schedule? Are you ready to just stick it to those people who are going to defend our country through the air? Because Braden Murray is, and that is a good measuring stick for the year going forward. Once again, thank you for making it your first listen today and every day. We'll catch you real soon on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.